The champagne glass tumbled from Sienna's hand, crystal exploding against the polished floor. Through the half-open study door, she watched her future disintegrate before her eyes. Marcus sat opposite an elegant woman with sharp cheekbones and calculating eyes, Mrs. Huang, real estate mogul and ice queen personified. Between them, a contract and Sienna's engagement photo stared back at her. "It's straightforward, Mr. Han," Mrs. Huang's voice cut through the air like a blade. $75 million for your family's company. The condition? You marry my daughter, someone who actually fits your world. Sienna's breath caught in her throat. She waited for Marcus to laugh, to stand up, to defend the 4 years they'd built together. Instead, his hand reached for the pen without hesitation. No pause. No struggle. No second thought. He signed away their entire relationship with a single stroke, like she was a business expense he'd decided to cut. For years dissolved in seconds. Sienna stumbled backward, her chest constricting. She had to get out, had to leave before they discovered her, before she shattered completely. But as she spun toward the exit, she collided hard with someone's chest. Firm hands steadied her shoulders. She looked up into the face of a man she'd never seen at any Han family gathering, distinguished, silver threading through jet-black hair, sharp features that could have been carved from marble, and eyes that seemed to see directly into her soul. "Leaving so soon, Miss Castellanos?" His voice was smooth, dangerous, with a subtle Korean accent that made each word deliberate. "I'm Han Jae-sung, Marcus's uncle." He glanced toward the door she'd been watching through, then back at her tear-streaked face. A slight smile touched his lips. "It seems we both have reasons to make the Hans regret their decisions tonight. I have an offer for you." What Sienna didn't know was that Jae-sung wasn't just Marcus's estranged uncle. He was the man whose past was built on secrets and power. And he was the most dangerous person in 3 states. But before we see what Sienna decides, don't forget to smash that like button. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the incredible stories we drop every single day. Hit that notification bell because this story is about to take some serious twists. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Now, let's get back to Sienna's story. Sienna Castellanos had always trusted her instincts. When she found the positive pregnancy test hidden in Marcus's bathroom drawer 6 months ago, one that definitely wasn't hers since she had an IUD, she'd convinced herself it was old, maybe from whoever lived there before. When his late-night conference calls became a nightly ritual, she'd believed his explanations. When his mother started making pointed remarks about suitable bloodlines at family dinners, she'd held her composure. But there was no explaining away what she'd just witnessed. The Han family estate was hosting what Marcus had called an intimate investor meeting. He'd asked Sienna to arrive early, help prepare, play the perfect future daughter-in-law. She'd shown up in her best dress, deep burgundy to complement the engagement ring he'd given her, only to realize she'd left her portfolio in the car. That forgotten portfolio had saved her from a lifetime of deception. When she'd returned through the side door, she'd heard voices drifting from the study. The door stood slightly ajar, enough to see everything, enough to hear her world collapse. "You understand this is purely business, Marcus." The woman's voice was smooth as venom. Victoria Huang, CEO of Huang Enterprises, one of the biggest commercial development firms on the West Coast. "My investment requires certain conditions that aren't negotiable." "I understand completely, Mrs. Huang." Marcus's voice, the same voice that had whispered promises just that morning, sounded hollow, mechanical. His father, Christopher Han, placed a firm hand on his son's shoulder. "The Castellanos woman is attractive, I'll grant you that. But beauty doesn't build dynasties, son. Victoria's daughter Jasmine has degrees from Yale and connections throughout Asia and Europe. This marriage merger will secure our family's position for generations." Sienna's world tilted. Marriage merger. What about Sienna? Marcus asked, but his tone carried no conviction, just empty obligation. Victoria laughed, cold and dismissive. "What about her? Write her a check. Apologize if you must. Move forward." Women like that always bounce back. They're survivors. Honestly, you're doing her a favor. She was never going to fit into this world anyway. Women like that. The words burned through Sienna's chest like acid. She knew exactly what Victoria meant. It didn't matter that Sienna had a master's degree in urban planning. Didn't matter that she'd built her own successful consulting firm from nothing. Didn't matter that she'd been the one crafting half the development strategies that made Han Industries profitable, that her ideas had positioned them as leaders in sustainable urban growth. What mattered was that she was Black. That her last name didn't carry weight in their circles. That she wasn't part of their carefully constructed vision of legacy and empire. Sign here, Marcus. Victoria slid documents across the mahogany desk. Terminate the engagement officially, and the 75 million transfers to Han Industries by end of business today. You'll announce your engagement to Jasmine within 6 weeks. Clean, profitable, appropriate. Sienna waited for Marcus to refuse, to tell them all exactly where they could shove their money, to choose love over profit. He picked up the pen. Everything went silent. For years. She'd given him 4 years of her life. She'd turned down a position with the United Nations in Geneva to stay with him. She'd endured his mother's subtle insults and his father's condescending dismissals. She'd loved him completely, authentically, without reservation. And he was trading her like a stock option. As Marcus's signature dried on the page, something inside Sienna transformed. Not broke, breaking implied fragility, weakness. No, this was evolution, from soft to steel, from trusting to tactical. She grabbed the champagne glass from the hallway console and hurled it against the marble floor. The crash brought immediate silence from the study. Then footsteps, rapid and purposeful. Marcus appeared first, his face draining of color. Sienna. I thought you weren't. When did you arrive? She smiled, and it was all edges. Early enough, Marcus. Early enough to hear everything. Victoria emerged behind him, looking more irritated than concerned. Christopher followed, his expression calculating rather than apologetic. Sienna, let me explain this, Marcus started. Explain what, exactly? That you just sold me for 75 million? That our entire relationship was apparently worth less than a corporate merger. Her voice was controlled, icy. No explanation needed. I heard it all. You're understandably upset, Victoria interjected smoothly. But you're an intelligent woman. Surely you recognize this is the best outcome for everyone involved. I'm prepared to offer you substantial compensation for your time and discretion. Compensation. Sienna laughed, sharp and bitter. You want to pay me off like I'm some escort you're finished with? Unbelievable. That's not what she's suggesting, Christopher cut in quickly. But be realistic, Miss Castellanos. You and Marcus inhabit different worlds. This outcome was inevitable. Don't create drama where there doesn't need to be any. Consider your business interests. Surely you understand strategic partnerships, given your little consulting firm. Her little consulting firm. The one that generated 8 figures annually. The one that had been featured in Forbes and Urban Planning Review. The one she'd built with her own vision and work while Marcus had inherited everything handed to him on a platinum platter. Sienna, please. Marcus finally found something resembling emotion in his voice. I do have feelings for you. But this is about my family's future, my responsibilities. You have to see that. I see perfectly. She pulled the engagement ring from her finger. For carats, emerald cut, a beautiful cage. She threw it at his feet where it bounced once, twice, then settled. I see that you're a coward. That your love had conditions and fine print. That I wasted 4 years on a man who doesn't have a backbone. She turned toward the exit. You'll regret this, Victoria called after her, voice hardening. You have no idea who you're dealing with, Miss Castellanos. I can ensure you never secure another contract in this city again. Sienna paused, looked back over her shoulder. Try it. Unlike your future son-in-law, I built my success myself. I don't need family money or connections. I have something you people never had to develop, actual talent and work ethic. She walked out, head high, though her hands trembled violently. The November night was freezing, cutting through her dress like knives. She'd parked 4 blocks away, and now she regretted the heels, the dress, every single decision that had led to this moment. Miss Castellanos. The voice emerged from the shadows near the estate's garden entrance. Deep, accented, unfamiliar. Sienna spun, her keys positioned between her fingers like a weapon. Who's there? Step into the light. A man moved into the glow from the garden lamps, and Sienna's breath caught for entirely different reasons. He was older, mid-50s if she had to estimate, but age had refined him into something striking, imposing. Tall, broad-shouldered, with silver streaking through black hair styled impeccably. His face was all clean lines and strong features, distinctly Korean, like he'd been sculpted with intention and precision. He wore a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, and he moved with fluid grace that suggested either years of martial arts training or dangerous experience. Possibly both. "Forgive the intrusion," he said, his English flawless, but carrying that subtle Korean accent that made every syllable sound deliberate. "My name is Han Jae-sung, though I believe you know my nephew Marcus." Sienna lowered her keys fractionally, but didn't relax her stance. "I didn't know Marcus had an uncle. He doesn't know about me either, not really. His father and I have been estranged for 32 years. I only recently returned to the States." A slight smile touched his lips, sardonic and knowing. "And you just happened to be in the garden during their investor meeting? I don't do coincidence, Miss Castellanos. I observe, I calculate, I act." He moved closer, and she caught his scent, something expensive and clean, sandalwood and citrus. "I came hoping to speak with my brother. Instead, I witnessed quite the compelling negotiation. And your rather spectacular exit. So you were spying on them? On them?" "No." His eyes, dark and impossibly focused, met hers directly. "I was watching you." Warning signals should have fired in her brain. A strange man watching her, appearing from nowhere, admitting to observation. But there was something in his gaze that wasn't predatory or creepy. It was assessing, like he was examining a masterpiece and determining its true worth. "That's disturbing," she said, but didn't step away. "It's honest." Disturbing would be pretending this was accidental. He tilted his head slightly, studying her. "You have fire. I watched you discover your entire world was ending, and you didn't cry or beg or collapse. You shattered and reformed into something sharper within minutes. That's exceptional. What do you want, Mr. Han?" "Jae-sung, please. Or James, if you prefer the American version I use for business." He reached into his jacket and Sienna tensed, but he only produced a business card, heavy stock embossed with silver lettering. "I want to offer you an opportunity. I'm not interested in whatever scam you're running." "Revenge," he said simply, directly. "I'm offering you revenge. And a path to take everything from the people who just tried to discard you like trash." Now she was listening, really listening. He continued, his voice smooth and certain. "My nephew just traded you for $75 million and a connected bride. Picture his reaction when you walk back into his world, not as the discarded fiancé, but as someone untouchable, someone with more power than his father ever imagined possible. And how exactly would I accomplish that?" His smile widened, and for the first time, Sienna saw something dangerous flash in his expression, something that made her pulse accelerate. "Marry me instead." Sienna stared at him, processing. "You're out of your mind." "Perhaps." Jae-sung agreed pleasantly. "But I'm also completely serious. Give me 5 minutes to explain before you refuse. I don't even know you. You're a complete stranger. You didn't know my nephew was willing to sell you until an hour ago. At least I'm being transparent about my intentions from the beginning." He gestured toward a bench near the fountain. 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes to hear my proposal. And if you're not interested, I disappear and you never see me again. I give you my word." Sienna should have walked away, should have gotten in her car, driven home, processed her broken engagement like a normal person. But she'd never been normal, never been conventional. And the dark promise in his voice, revenge, was too intoxicating to ignore. She sat. The cold stone bench bit through her dress, but she barely noticed. Jae-sung settled beside her, maintaining respectful distance. Up close, she could see the fine lines around his eyes, the silver at his temples threading through black. He wasn't just handsome, he was distinguished, polished, like aged whiskey and cut crystal. "I'll start with complete honesty," he said, voice low and measured. "I've known about you for 3 years, Miss Castellanos. Since I began researching my brother's family from Korea. 3 years." Alarm crept into her voice. "That's not stalking, that's research. There's a distinction." He pulled out his phone, showed her an article from Urban Planning Quarterly. "Your firm, Castellanos Urban Solutions, revolutionized sustainable development in American cities. You won the Urban Innovation Award 2 years ago, youngest Black woman ever to receive it. Your TED Talk on equitable city design has 60 million views. You're extraordinary, remarkable. And you've been wasting yourself on a man who couldn't recognize your value." Sienna's defenses wavered slightly. He'd done extensive homework, thorough research. "That still doesn't explain why you'd want to marry someone you've never met." "2 reasons, both equally important. First, my brother." Jae-sung's expression hardened, went cold. "Christopher and I have history, painful history. He's the reason I left the States 32 years ago. He betrayed me, stole what was rightfully mine, built his empire on my devastation. I've spent 3 decades building my own power base, waiting for the right moment to remind him that the Han family legacy belongs to me just as much as him." Sounds like a personal vendetta. It is. But here's where it becomes your solution too. He leaned forward slightly. "My brother values exactly 2 things, bloodline purity and appearances. Imagine his absolute horror when his estranged brother, the one he's pretended doesn't exist for 3 decades, returns married to the woman his son just discarded, married to someone he considers inappropriate for the family name. So I'd be a revenge prop, your weapon. You'd be my wife, legally, publicly, legitimately. And in return, you'd gain access to everything the Han family has and more: money, connections, power, influence." He held her gaze. "I own 23 legitimate businesses across the US and Korea, Miss Castellanos. Hotels, technology firms, real estate developments, restaurants. I'm worth approximately $3.8 billion. As my wife, you'd have resources to expand your firm globally, internationally. You'd have the Han name, my version of it, the version that actually carries weight in Korea and increasingly here. And what would you get besides antagonizing your brother?" His eyes darkened, and for a moment she glimpsed something raw beneath the polished exterior, something vulnerable. "You. I would get you, your brilliance, your strength, your presence." The honesty of it stole her breath, left her momentarily speechless. "I'm 29 years old," she said finally. "You're what, 55? Somewhere around there. 54. Birthday in November." He didn't look away, didn't flinch. "If the age difference is a deal breaker, I understand completely. But I'm not looking for a trophy or decoration, Miss Castellanos. I'm looking for a true partner, an equal, someone brilliant enough to match me intellectually, strong enough to survive in my world, and angry enough to want exactly what I'm offering." "What exactly is your world, Mr. Han?" "James," he corrected gently. "And my world is complicated, multifaceted. Some of my businesses are completely legitimate, above board. Others operate in gray areas, questionable spaces. I have connections that span from Seoul to San Francisco, friends in very high places and very dangerous low ones. I'm not a good man by conventional moral standards." "Are you saying you're a criminal? Some kind of gangster?" "I'm saying I'm pragmatic. I do what's necessary to protect what's mine and eliminate what threatens me." He met her eyes directly, unflinching. "I would never ask you to participate in the darker aspects of my operations, but I won't lie about who I am or what I do either. You deserve complete transparency." "So you're like, what, Korean Mafia?" The label from earlier suddenly clicked into place. This wasn't just some wealthy uncle with family grudges. This was someone powerful, someone dangerous, someone offering her everything she'd just lost and exponentially more. This is completely insane, she whispered. Absolutely. We don't know each other at all. We will, given time. He interrupted gently but firmly. Marriage is fundamentally a contract, a legal agreement between two people. We can define the terms however we want, however makes you comfortable. If you want separate bedrooms, separate spaces, you'll have them. If you want this to remain purely business, professional, it will be. I won't force myself on you or expect anything you're not willing to give freely. Then what exactly do you expect from this arrangement? Publicly, play the role convincingly. Be my wife at events, at family gatherings, in front of my brother and his circle. Help me reintegrate into American high society with a brilliant, accomplished woman by my side, someone who makes a statement. He paused, choosing words carefully. Privately, I expect honesty, loyalty, and time. Time for what, exactly? To see if this could evolve into something genuine, something real. His voice softened slightly. I know you don't know me. I know this seems completely crazy, irrational. But I've watched you, studied you, admired you from a distance for 3 years. I've seen your strength, your talent, your grace under pressure. I'm not proposing a traditional marriage today. I'm proposing the possibility of one, a partnership that might grow into something deeper if we're both willing to try. Sienna's mind raced, spinning through implications. This was insane, absolutely crazy, marrying a complete stranger, a self-admitted criminal, someone 25 years older, just for revenge and resources. But was it really just revenge? He was offering her power, connections, protection, an opportunity to build something bigger than she'd ever imagined possible. And he was being honest about everything, more honest than Marcus had been in for entire years. Why should I trust you even slightly? You shouldn't, he said simply, directly. Not yet, not immediately. Trust is earned through time and actions. But I can give you something right now that my nephew never did, never offered. A real choice, genuine agency. I'm not asking you to give up who you are or what you've built or what you want for your future. I'm asking you to take what you deserve and make them all regret every dismissive word, every condescending look. God help her, but the idea was intoxicating, thrilling. I need time to think about this, process everything. Of course, naturally. He stood, extended the business card again. Take a week, maybe 2. Research me thoroughly. You'll find things that frighten you, concern you, I'm certain. Investigate everything, ask whatever questions you need answered. Then call me with your decision, whatever it is. He started walking away, then paused, turned back. For what it's worth, Miss Castellanos, Sienna, I think you deserve someone who truly sees you, all of you, not just the parts that are convenient or profitable or socially acceptable. His smile was gentle, almost tender. Marcus was a complete fool. But his devastating loss could be our unexpected beginning. Then he was gone, disappearing into shadows like he'd materialized from them. Sienna sat in the garden for a long time, turning the business card over in her hands repeatedly. Han Jae-sung, CEO, Han Global Enterprises. One internet search would tell her if he was being truthful. One phone call would alter her entire life trajectory forever. She looked back at the mansion where Marcus was probably celebrating his profitable betrayal, his successful transaction. Then she pulled out her phone and started searching. Let me know in the comments if you think Sienna should accept this deal or run for the hills. And if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Subscribe right now because this story is about to get incredibly intense, wildly dramatic. Should she marry the uncle? Keep watching to find out what happens next. Sienna spent the next 5 days doing what she did best, thorough research and investigation. Han Jae-sung, she discovered quickly, was not exaggerating about his wealth or influence whatsoever. His business empire was vast, impressively diversified. Luxury hotels in Seoul, San Francisco, and Manhattan, a cybersecurity company specializing in corporate protection, restaurants ranging from Michelin-starred establishments to successful casual chains, real estate holdings spanning 3 continents and multiple markets. The legitimate businesses alone would qualify him as a billionaire several times over. But then there were the rumors, the whispers, the implications. Murmurs on Korean business forums about his connections to powerful organizations, articles that mentioned him peripherally in relation to organized crime activity, though never with concrete evidence or charges. A Seoul newspaper from 12 years ago that linked him to the dismantling of a rival operation, but positioned him as a witness cooperating with authorities, not a perpetrator. He was careful, meticulous. Whatever he was involved in, he kept it clean enough to avoid prosecution entirely, but visible enough to maintain fear, respect, and distance. Sienna found one interview in a Korean business magazine from 7 years ago. The article included a photo of Jae-sung at a charity function, looking devastating in a perfectly tailored tuxedo. The interviewer had asked about his personal life, his private world. "I was married once, very young and idealistic," he'd said. "She died in a tragic accident 32 years ago. Since then, I've devoted myself to building empires rather than relationships, to power rather than love. Perhaps that was a mistake, a miscalculation. Perhaps it's never too late to try again, to open that door." A widower. That explained some of the loneliness she'd sensed beneath his polished, controlled exterior. She researched deeper into the Han family history, the complicated dynamics. Christopher Han had indeed had a brother, older by 3 years, the firstborn son. The brothers had been business partners in their 20s, running a modest import-export operation together. Then abruptly, without explanation, Jae-sung had left the country entirely. 8 months later, Christopher had suddenly acquired significant capital from unknown sources and expanded the business dramatically into what eventually became Han Industries. The timeline was suspicious, extremely questionable. On the 6th day, Marcus called her phone. Sienna stared at the screen, watching his name flash insistently. Part of her wanted to send it straight to voicemail, but a larger part wanted to hear what possible justification he could offer, what excuse he'd constructed. She answered. "What do you want, Marcus?" "Sienna." "Thank God you answered. I've been trying to reach you for nearly a week now." He sounded stressed, frayed. "Good for you. We need to talk, have a real conversation. We have absolutely nothing to talk about. Please just listen for 2 minutes. I made a terrible mistake, a catastrophic error in judgment. I was pressured by my father, manipulated by Victoria Huang. I wasn't thinking clearly, rationally. But I've been absolutely miserable without you. I told them I can't go through with marrying Jasmine. I want you back, want us back." Sienna laughed, cold and sharp. "You want me back now? How convenient. I love you. I've always loved you, Sienna. The money doesn't matter anymore. None of it matters. Except it mattered 6 days ago. It mattered enough for you to sign away our entire relationship without hesitation. I panicked, made a rash decision. But I've come to my senses now, seen clearly. Baby, please. We can get past this, move forward. I'll make it right, I swear." "Let me guess," Sienna said coolly. "Victoria pulled her investment when you tried to back out of the arrangement. And Jasmine wasn't as agreeable as they promised, as advertised. So now you're crawling back to your backup option, your safety net." Silence stretched. Then, defensive, it's not like that at all. It's exactly like that, precisely that. She felt nothing, no heartbreak, no longing, just pure contempt. "You treated me like I was a commodity, Marcus. You showed me exactly what I'm worth to you, my value in your eyes. Did you really think a few days and some empty words would make me forget that, erase it? Sienna, be reasonable about this." "I'm being extremely reasonable. I'm choosing not to destroy your pathetic life the way you tried to destroy mine. That's remarkably generous considering everything. What's that supposed to mean exactly?" "It means leave me alone. Don't call, don't text, don't show up at my office. We're finished, completely done. We've been done since the exact moment you picked up that pen and signed." She ended the call immediately, decisively. Her phone buzzed with texts within seconds, apologies, promises, desperate pleas. She blocked his number and felt lighter instantly, liberated. That evening, she called the number on Jae-sung's card. He answered on the second ring. Sienna. Just her name, but the way he said it, like it was something valuable, precious, made her stomach flutter unexpectedly. I have questions for you, several questions. I have answers, complete honesty. Did you steal from your brother, or did he steal from you? What's the truth? A pause, then direct and unflinching. I appreciate the directness. He stole from me, devastatingly. My wife's life insurance policy, to be specific and precise. She died in a car accident, sudden and tragic. $2.5 million. Christopher was the executor of my estate at the time, my trusted brother. And while I was incapacitated with grief, barely functional, he transferred the money to himself systematically. Built his empire with my tragedy, my devastating loss. The bitterness in his voice was ancient, but still razor-sharp, still raw. Why didn't you sue him, take legal action? I tried, exhaustively. He had better lawyers, more resources, and had covered his tracks well enough to make it my word against his, unprovable. So I left, went to Korea to our mother's family, started completely over. A breath controlled. And I built something bigger than he could ever dream of achieving. But the betrayal, that kind of wound, it never truly heals, never fades. Are you actually mafia, organized crime? He laughed, rich and genuine. Such an Italian word for a Korean organization, Korean structures. But yes, essentially, fundamentally. I have deep connections to what Americans would call organized crime, powerful networks. I don't traffic drugs or people. I have absolute lines I won't cross, moral boundaries. But I control information flow, territories, certain lucrative gray market operations. I protect my people fiercely and eliminate threats efficiently. Does that frighten you, terrify you? It should, she admitted honestly. But I think I'm too angry right now to be frightened, too furious to care. Anger is useful, clarifying. It helps us see what really matters. Marcus called me today, tried to reconcile. Did he? Jason's voice went cold, dangerous. What did my idiot nephew want exactly? Me back, apparently. His new arrangement fell through, collapsed. Of course it did, predictably. Victoria Huang is absolutely ruthless in business. The moment he showed any weakness, any hesitation, she would have withdrawn everything. And her daughter has a well-known reputation for being extremely difficult, demanding. A pause. What did you tell him? To never contact me again, to disappear from my life. Good. Satisfaction colored his tone warmly. You deserve infinitely better than him, better than what he could offer. Like a 54-year-old alleged crime boss I've known for less than a week? 54, actually. Birthday's in November, as I mentioned. She could hear his smile through the phone. And yes, exactly like that, precisely. Sienna sat on her couch, looking at the city lights spreading through her window like scattered diamonds. This is absolutely insane, completely crazy. You've mentioned that observation before. But if I did this, if I actually agreed to marry you, what would it look like practically? What would the reality be? Logistics and expectations. We'd marry quickly, efficiently. Courthouse or small private ceremony, whichever you prefer, whatever makes you comfortable. I have a residence in Manhattan, a penthouse. 6 bedrooms, completely renovated recently. You'd have your own space, your own complete freedom and privacy. We'd appear together at necessary social functions, required events. I'd introduce you to my business associates, my network, and you'd help me navigate reintegrating into American high society, the circles that matter. And your brother, Marcus, and his family, we'd make absolutely certain they knew about us. Perhaps a casual mention at the right charity event, or a wedding announcement in the society pages, strategic placement. However you want to deliver the news that you've upgraded dramatically, exponentially. She smiled despite herself, despite everything. You're very confident about this, very certain. I'm very certain of what I want, what I've wanted. And what I want is a genuine partnership with you, an equal collaboration. However that evolves naturally. His voice softened noticeably. I won't pressure you for romance or intimacy, Sienna. If all this ever becomes is a business arrangement and a respectful friendship, I'll be content with that, grateful for it. But if it becomes something more, something deeper, I'll be grateful for every single moment. Why me, really? You could have literally anyone, any woman you wanted. I could have many people, that's true, he agreed readily. But I want someone extraordinary, exceptional. Someone who builds instead of just inheriting, who creates rather than consumes. Someone who fights instead of just accepting circumstances. Someone who looks like a goddess and thinks like a strategic general, a visionary. He paused. I want you specifically. I've wanted you since I saw you speak at that urban planning conference in Seoul 3 years ago. You were brilliant, absolutely fierce and passionate. You talked about building spaces that honor all people, not just the wealthy and privileged. And I thought, that's someone I could spend my life learning from, growing with. Sienna's breath caught in her throat. You were there at my Seoul lecture? In the audience. Front row center. 3 years ago exactly. 3 years. He'd been what? Watching, waiting patiently for the right moment? It should have been creepy, unsettling, but something about the way he said it felt more like patience, like careful planning, like he'd been waiting for the right circumstances, the perfect alignment. Or maybe she was rationalizing, justifying, because she wanted this desperately, wanted the power, the revenge, the opportunity to throw her success directly in Marcus's face. Wanted him, this dangerous stranger with the careful voice and the devastating history. The thought startled her, made her pulse race. But sitting there, talking to this dangerous man with his measured words and terrible past, she realized she was genuinely intrigued, deeply attracted. More than intrigued, actually invested. He saw her not as a trophy or an obstacle or something to be managed, but as an equal, a true partner. When was the last time Marcus had asked about her work, her dreams, her visions for the future? When had he ever really seen her, truly understood her? If I say yes, she said slowly, carefully, I have specific conditions, non-negotiables. Name them all. I keep my business completely separate from yours, entirely independent. I won't launder money or be involved in anything illegal, anything criminal. That's absolute. Agreed completely. Your firm is yours, your creation. I wouldn't dream of tainting it or compromising what you've built. I want a prenuptial agreement that protects both of us fairly, but ensures I'm not left with nothing if this goes wrong, if it fails. I'll have my lawyers draft something extremely generous, protective. You should absolutely have your own attorney review it thoroughly, negotiate. I need absolute honesty always, complete transparency. I just survived 4 years of lies and manipulation. If you're going to do something that affects me, I need to know beforehand. You'll have it, I promise. Complete transparency about anything that involves you or touches your life. And time, like you said initially. Time to see if this could become real, genuine. No pressure, no expectations, no demands. Just possibility and patience. All the time you need, whatever you require. No rush. Sienna closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and made her choice. Okay then. I'll marry you, James Hahn. The silence on the other end lasted 3 heartbeats, maybe 4. Then his voice, rough with something that might have been genuine emotion, relief. You won't regret this decision, I promise you that. I'd better not. Because if you betray me like your nephew did, like Marcus did, there's not a corner of this entire earth where you'll be able to hide from me. He laughed, delighted and warm. Threatening me already, making promises. See, this is exactly why we'll work perfectly together, why this will succeed. When should we make this official, legally binding? Soon, very soon. Before either of us loses nerve or reconsiders. Tomorrow then. Courthouse, noon exactly. Bring whatever you want to wear, or I can arrange something if you prefer. I'll handle my own dress, thanks. I'm perfectly capable. Then I'll handle everything else, all the logistics. A pause. Sienna? Yeah. Thank you for taking a chance on a dangerous old man, for trusting me. You're not that old, not ancient. I'm old enough to know when something precious falls into my life unexpectedly. I won't waste it, won't take it for granted. After they hung up, Sienna sat in the darkness for a long time, her mind racing through what she'd just agreed to. Then she started planning what she'd wear to her impromptu wedding and rehearsing what she'd say when Marcus inevitably discovered the truth. The courthouse was stunning in the late autumn light, all granite columns and burnished gold details catching the sun. Sienna arrived in a dress she'd purchased that morning after 2 hours of searching. Ivory silk, knee-length with delicate beading at the neckline and cap sleeves. Simple but elegant, sophisticated. Not a traditional wedding dress, not even close. But not casual either. A perfect middle ground, like everything about this arrangement, this unexpected partnership. Jae-sung was waiting on the steps, and the sight of him made her pause mid-stride, made her breath catch. He wore a perfectly tailored charcoal suit with a silver tie that brought out the gray in his hair, looking like he'd stepped directly from a luxury magazine editorial. But what stopped her completely was the expression on his face when he saw her, when their eyes met. Wonder, pure and completely unguarded, vulnerable. "You look absolutely breathtaking," he said as she approached, his voice rough with sincerity. "You clean up pretty well yourself." She accepted his offered arm, felt the solid strength beneath the expensive fabric. "I have witnesses inside already. My attorney and my head of security, people I trust completely. I hope that's acceptable." "We need 2 witnesses legally." "That's fine. I didn't really have anyone to invite anyway, no one I wanted here." The words came out more bitter than she'd intended, revealing more than she'd meant to. Jae-sung covered her hand with his, warm and reassuring. "After today, you'll have me. And everyone I know, every connection I have, becomes available to you. You'll never lack for people again, never be alone." Something about the promise in his voice, the conviction, made her believe him completely. The ceremony was brief, efficient, surreal in its simplicity. The judge looked bored and disinterested until Jae-sung slipped him what was probably a generous monetary incentive for expediting the paperwork. Then he became considerably more enthusiastic about the proceedings, about pronouncing them husband and wife. "You may kiss your bride," the judge announced formally. Jae-sung looked at her, a clear question in his dark eyes, seeking permission. Sienna made a split-second decision and leaned up, pressing her lips to his firmly. It was supposed to be quick, performative, just for show. But the moment their mouths connected, something electric shot through her entire body. His lips were soft, warm, and he tasted like coffee and something mint. His hand came up to cup her cheek, gentle but unmistakably possessive, and for 3 perfect heartbeats, the entire world disappeared completely. When they broke apart, his eyes were darker, heated. "Well," he said softly, voice rough. "That was unexpected, surprising. Consider it sealing the deal officially. Then it's the best business transaction I've ever made in my life." They signed papers in a small administrative office, official documents that changed everything. Sienna Castellanos became Sienna Han so easily it was almost anticlimactic, almost absurd. Just a signature, just ink on paper, and her entire life trajectory changed direction completely. Outside, a car was waiting, discreet and expensive. Not a limousine, too ostentatious and obvious, but a sleek black Mercedes with a professional driver who nodded respectfully at Jae-sung. "This is Marcus," Jae-sung introduced, and Sienna had to suppress a laugh at the irony of the name. "He's been with me for 17 years, completely loyal. Marcus, my wife, Sienna." The driver smiled warmly, genuinely. "Welcome to the family, ma'am. Sincere congratulations to you both." The word family settled strangely in Sienna's chest, unfamiliar and weighted. They drove to his penthouse, her penthouse now she supposed, in comfortable silence. Jae-sung's hand rested near hers on the leather seat, close but not touching, still respecting boundaries and space. The building was in Tribeca, exclusive and elegant, the kind of place with doormen who knew everyone's names. They rode the elevator to the top floor in continued silence, and when Jae-sung opened the penthouse door, Sienna couldn't suppress her audible gasp. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of Manhattan, the city sprawling below like a kingdom. The design was modern but warm, inviting rather than cold, exposed brick contrasting with polished hardwood floors, carefully curated art on the walls that actually meant something. The furniture was clearly expensive, museum quality, but lived in, comfortable, used. This wasn't a showroom for guests. This was genuinely a home. The master bedroom is through there, Jae-sung said, pointing toward double doors. But I've prepared a complete suite for you on the opposite side of the penthouse. Your own bedroom, private bathroom, walk-in closet, and a sitting room if you want complete privacy or space to work. Where will you sleep? The guest room, unless you prefer otherwise. I'll take the master and you take the suite, whatever makes you comfortable. No, I meant. She turned to face him directly. This is your home, your space. I'm not kicking you out of your own bedroom. Our home now, he corrected gently. And I want you comfortable, settled. I'll take the suite, make it work. For now, she decided carefully, testing the words. But you keep your room. For now, he repeated, and something in his tone suggested he was filing that phrase away carefully, holding onto it. Are you hungry? I can cook something or we can order in, whatever you prefer. You cook? Actually cook. He smiled, warm and genuine. I've lived alone for 32 years, Sienna. I learned to take care of myself, be self-sufficient. Though I'll warn you honestly, I'm considerably better with Korean food than American cuisine. I love Korean food, actually. My college roommate was Korean, taught me to appreciate it. Then let me make us something proper. A wedding dinner, just the two of us. She followed him to the kitchen, which was a chef's absolute dream with marble counters and professional-grade appliances that gleamed. Jae-sung moved through the space with easy confidence, practiced grace, pulling out ingredients, setting a pot of water to boil, his movements efficient and sure. Can I help with anything? Sienna asked, feeling slightly useless. Can you chop vegetables competently? I can manage that without injury. They worked side by side, and it felt strangely normal, comfortable, domestic, like they'd done this 100 times before instead of being virtual strangers who'd gotten married just hours ago. Tell me about your firm, Jae-sung said as he sliced beef with practiced precision. What projects are you working on currently? What's exciting you? So she did. She told him everything. She explained her current design for a mixed-use community center in the Bronx, her plans for affordable, sustainable housing developments that didn't look like projects, her dream of creating architectural solutions specifically for homeless populations that honor dignity. He listened, really listened, asking intelligent questions, offering insights from his extensive real estate experience that actually added value. You think differently than most architects, he observed thoughtfully. You design for actual people, for communities, not for awards or recognition. Awards are nice, validating, she admitted. But they're not why I do this work. I grew up in a neighborhood where buildings were deliberately ugly because no one thought we deserved beauty, deserved consideration. Where parks were neglected because we didn't matter to anyone. I want to prove, to demonstrate, that exceptional design should be for everyone, not just the wealthy. Your parents must be incredibly proud of what you've built. A shadow crossed her face, darkened her expression. My mom died when I was 17. Breast cancer, aggressive. My dad tried his best after, he really did, but he was never the same person. He died 6 years ago. Heart attack, sudden. I'm sorry for your losses. Jae-sung covered her hand briefly with his, warm and solid. Loss is devastating, changes everything. It reshapes you. You understand completely, don't you? Your wife, Yoon-hee. Yes, exactly. He was quiet for a moment, his hands stilling. She was young, only 24. We'd been married just 3 years. A drunk driver ran a red light, completely preventable. He set down his knife carefully. Christopher was supposed to help me through it, support me. Instead, he saw an opportunity for himself. That's when I learned definitively that blood doesn't guarantee loyalty or decency. Is that why you never remarried after? Never tried again. Partially, yes. Also because I was building an empire, becoming someone dangerous, someone threatening. That's not a life you inflict on someone you genuinely love, someone you care about. He looked at her directly. But you're different, Sienna. You're choosing this with complete knowledge of who I am, what I do. You're walking in with open eyes. Am I though? She challenged. I know the broad strokes, the surface. But I don't really know you, not deeply. Then ask me anything right now. Tonight, complete honesty. Whatever you want to know, I'll answer truthfully. So she asked, and he answered without hesitation. She learned that he'd been a street fighter in Seoul before working his way into legitimate business, that he'd killed 4 men in his life, all in self-defense or defense of others he was protecting, but killed nonetheless, and he carried that weight. That he'd built his organization on loyalty and calculated fear in equal measure. That he owned judges, politicians, and police officials in 2 countries, that his influence reached into places most people never saw. He didn't sugarcoat any of it, didn't make excuses or justify. I'm not a good man by conventional standards, he said again, firmly. But I'm a fair one, consistent. I protect what's mine, and I honor my word absolutely. You're mine now, Sienna. That means I'll protect you with everything I have, every resource available. And I'll never lie to you, never deceive you. What if I can't handle it eventually? She whispered, voicing her fear. What if your world is too dark for me too much? Then I'll shield you from it completely. You'll never have to touch the darkness if you don't want to, if you can't handle it. You can live your life exactly as you choose. Build your buildings, create your designs. Be brilliant and accomplished. I'll handle the shadows, the difficult parts. They ate the dinner he'd prepared with care. Bulgogi, perfectly seasoned kimchi, fried rice with vegetables, and mayakguk that tasted exactly right. It was absolutely delicious, and Sienna told him so sincerely. My mother's recipes, exactly as she made them, he said with clear fondness. She died 11 years ago. Cancer, like your mother. Pancreatic, very aggressive. I'm sorry. That's terrible. We share similar wounds, similar scars, he observed quietly. Perhaps that's part of why this feels less strange than it should, less impossible. After dinner, they sat together on the oversized couch with wine, watching the city lights spread below them like scattered stars. What happens tomorrow? Sienna asked. Do we announce this publicly or wait? What's the strategy? That's entirely up to you, your choice. We can be public immediately, make a statement, or we can wait, be strategic. Though I'd like to tell my brother soon, relatively quickly. The anticipation of his reaction is genuinely half the fun, half the satisfaction. She laughed despite herself. You really despise him, truly hate him. I really do, he agreed simply. He took everything from me and never apologized, never even acknowledged it. Never showed remorse. And he raised his son to be just as callous, just as dismissive. Marcus called me again today, earlier. I didn't answer this time. He'll keep trying relentlessly. Men like that can't accept rejection, can't process it. They think persistence equals romance, that wearing someone down is love. What would you do if someone rejected you? Turned you down? Jae-sung looked at her, and his gaze was intense, focused. I'd respect their choice absolutely. But I'd also make certain they knew exactly what they were turning down, what they were walking away from. I'd be unforgettable even in absence, even in rejection. You're very confident about yourself. I'm very aware of my value, my worth. As you should be acutely aware of yours. He set down his wine glass. Sienna, you're 29 years old, and you've accomplished more than most people do in entire lifetimes. You're brilliant, beautiful, and brave enough to marry a dangerous stranger for revenge and possibility, for a chance at something different. Any man would be extraordinarily lucky to have your attention, your time. Don't ever let anyone make you feel otherwise, make you feel less. The conviction in his voice, the certainty, made her chest feel tight. Thank you, she said softly, meaning it. For what exactly? For seeing me, really seeing me. Marcus looked at me for 4 years and never really saw who I was. You've known me less than a week and you see everything, all of me. Then he's an even bigger fool than I thought, than I imagined. Jae-sung stood, offered his hand with old-fashioned courtesy. It's late. Let me show you to your room, get you settled. The suite he'd prepared was beautiful, genuinely thoughtful, decorated in soft grays and warm creams with fresh orchids on the dresser and the closet already stocked with wooden hangers. I took the liberty of having some clothes delivered earlier, he said, opening the closet to reveal an array of dresses, casual wear, professional pieces, and shoes in her size. I estimated sizes based on available photos and research. If anything doesn't fit properly, we'll exchange it immediately. You bought me an entire wardrobe, a complete closet. You're my wife now. I want you to have everything you need, everything you want. Though I'm sure you prefer your own personal style, your own choices. These are just temporary, just until you can shop properly for what you actually want. Sienna ran her hand over a beautiful silk blouse, clearly expensive. They're perfect, actually. Thank you. There's one more thing. He pulled a small velvet box from his jacket pocket. I know this isn't a traditional marriage, not conventional. But you should have a proper ring, something meaningful. He opened it and Sienna's breath caught sharply. The ring was absolutely stunning, breathtaking. A deep emerald surrounded by small diamonds set in platinum, elegant and unique, and nothing like the generic princess-cut Marcus had given her without thought. Emerald, she whispered, touching it carefully. Your birthstone, May, correct? Yes, exactly. How did you know that? I wanted something that was specifically yours, chosen for you. Not just any ring, but one selected with you in mind, with thought. He slipped it onto her finger, and it fit absolutely perfectly, like it was made for her. How did you know my exact ring size? A slight smile played at his lips. I have my ways, my resources. That's slightly creepy, but also impressive. Did I get it right? Is it acceptable? It's absolutely perfect. They stood there, her hand in his, the weight of the ring both foreign and somehow right, somehow meant to be. Good night, Sienna, he said softly, with clear reluctance. Sleep well. And if you need anything at all, anything, I'm just across the penthouse. Good night, James. He left, closing the door quietly behind him with care. Sienna sat on the edge of the bed, looking at the ring on her finger catching the light, and wondered what the hell she'd just done, what she'd gotten herself into. And why, despite everything, it felt so much like exactly the right choice. For weeks passed in a strange, suspended reality, like living in a beautiful dream. Sienna moved her essential belongings into the penthouse gradually, claiming space. She returned to work at her firm where her team had questions about her sudden absence and the ring on her finger, but accepted her vague explanations professionally. She spent evenings with Jae-sung, learning about him layer by layer, letting him learn about her in return, revealing herself slowly. They cooked together, experimented with recipes, watched movies while discussing them, talked for hours about everything and nothing, philosophy and business and dreams. He introduced her to his business associates carefully vetted ones who wouldn't terrify her with the full scope of his darker operations. She showed him her design projects in detail, and he offered surprisingly insightful feedback that improved her work. It felt like dating, like courtship, except they were already married and the chemistry between them was absolutely undeniable, crackling. Little touches that lingered, his hand on her lower back as they walked, her fingers brushing his as they passed dishes at dinner, lingering looks across the table that lasted too long. The way her pulse jumped noticeably when he smiled at her. But Jae-sung never pushed, never assumed anything. He was perfectly, frustratingly gentlemanly, respectful. Until the night everything shifted, everything changed. They'd been watching a movie, sitting close on the couch, closer than necessary. Sienna was hyper-aware of his proximity, the warmth radiating from him, the cedar scent she'd come to associate with safety and home. Can I ask you something personal? She said during a particularly boring scene. Always anything. Why haven't you tried anything? I mean, we're married, legally bound. But you haven't even attempted to touch me beyond occasional hand-holding. Because you're not ready yet, he said simply. And when you are ready, you'll tell me clearly. You'll make it known. How do you know I'm not ready right now? He turned to her, and his gaze was absolutely molten, heated. Because when you are, you won't ask questions or seek permission. You'll simply take what you want. You're not passive, Sienna. When you decide you want me, I'll know with absolute certainty. The challenge in his voice, the confidence, ignited something deep inside her. And if I decided right now, this moment, then I'd ask if you're completely sure. If this is what you truly want, not what you think you should want or should do. I'm sure, she whispered, surprised to find it was absolutely true, that she meant it. Something shifted in his expression dramatically. Control giving way to raw want, desire. Then come here to me. She moved into his space without hesitation, and he cupped her face with both hands, searching her eyes one final time before kissing her deeply. This wasn't like the courthouse kiss, nothing like it. This was fire and desperate need and 4 weeks of tension finally breaking, finally releasing. His mouth claimed hers with skill and hunger, and she melted into him completely, her hands fisting in his expensive shirt. He pulled her onto his lap, and she went willingly, eagerly, straddling him as the kiss deepened and intensified. His hands slid into her hair, and she gasped against his mouth, overwhelmed. "Sienna," he groaned, voice rough. "If you want to stop at any point, don't stop," she interrupted firmly. "Don't you dare stop." He didn't. The next morning, Sienna woke in Jae-sung's bed, morning sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows in golden streams. He was already awake, propped on one elbow, watching her with an expression so tender, so open, it made her chest physically ache. "Good morning, wife," he said softly. She smiled, reaching up to touch his face. "Good morning, husband." "Regrets?" "Second thoughts." "None whatsoever. Being with you could never be a regret." He brushed hair from her face gently. "Now that we've crossed this line, blurred these boundaries, I should warn you honestly. I'm not good at casual, at keeping things surface. If this is just physical for you, just attraction, I'll manage somehow. But you should know that I'm already halfway in love with you, falling completely." Her breath caught, her heart stuttering. "James, you don't have to say anything back, don't have to reciprocate." He kissed her forehead tenderly. "I just wanted you to know where I stand, where my heart is. Now, I believe we have a party to attend tonight, an important event. Are you ready to make our official debut, show the world?" The party, the gala. She'd almost forgotten completely. One of Jae-sung's business associates was hosting a major charity event. The kind of occasion that attracted New York's absolute elite, including almost certainly the entire Han family. "I'm ready," she said with conviction. "Let's show them exactly what they lost, what they threw away." The gala was at the plaza, dripping with obvious opulence and old money, crystal chandeliers, and marble everywhere. Sienna wore a dress Jae-sung had bought her specifically for tonight. Deep ruby red silk that hugged every curve perfectly with a daring slit-up one thigh and a back that plunged scandalously low. She looked expensive, powerful, absolutely untouchable. Jae-sung in his custom tuxedo was devastating, commanding attention. They looked like wealth and danger and controlled power, and Sienna could feel eyes tracking them constantly as they entered together, as they moved through the crowd. "Remember," Jae-sung murmured, his hand possessive and warm on her lower back. "You're untouchable now, protected. Mrs. Han, my wife." Let them stare, let them wonder. And stare they did, whispers following in their wake. They made it through cocktails and the formal dinner without incident, without confrontation. Jae-sung introduced her to dozens of people strategically, investors, politicians, other business owners, people who mattered. Everyone treated her with obvious respect bordering on careful reverence. And it took her a while to realize fully, it wasn't primarily about her considerable accomplishments. It was about him, his power and reputation. They respected her because she was his, because she belonged to him. It should have bothered her, should have chafed. But honestly, after 4 years of Marcus's family treating her like an embarrassment, like something to hide, being treated like royalty was genuinely intoxicating. They were at the bar ordering drinks when it finally happened, when the moment arrived. James Han. Jae-sung went completely still, every muscle tensing. Then slowly, deliberately, he turned around. Christopher Han stood 4 feet away, looking like he'd encountered a ghost, like he'd seen something impossible. "Hello, little brother," Jae-sung said pleasantly, voice smooth. "It's been quite a while, hasn't it?" Christopher had aged noticeably since the photos Sienna had researched. Grayer, softer around the middle, but still handsome in a distinguished, patrician way. His expression cycled rapidly through shock, confusion, disbelief, and then something very much like fear when his eyes landed directly on Sienna. "Miss Castellanos," he said slowly, carefully, like he was testing reality. "Mrs. Hahn, actually," Sienna corrected smoothly, holding up her left hand where the emerald caught the light brilliantly. "Legally and officially." Christopher's face went absolutely white, drained of color. "What? What are you, my wife?" Jae-sung confirmed, pulling Sienna close against him protectively. "We married 5 weeks ago." Quite the whirlwind romance, unexpected. But when you know absolutely. Don't you agree with that sentiment, Christopher? You can't. This isn't. Christopher looked between them desperately. "Ryan said you two ended things, that it was over." "Ryan and I ended things, that's correct," Sienna said smoothly, enjoying his confusion. "Then I met James. Funny how life works out sometimes, how things align." "You married my brother." Christopher's voice was strangled, disbelieving. "My estranged brother?" "Your brother, yes," Jae-sung agreed pleasantly. "The one you stole from systematically. The one you tried to erase from history." "Surprise, Christopher. I'm back in the States. And I brought the woman your son was stupid enough to discard like garbage." "Ryan," Christopher called desperately, voice rising. And there he was, right on cue. Marcus Hahn looking successful and polished in his designer tuxedo, with a beautiful Asian woman on his arm, clearly Jasmine Huang based on descriptions. Marcus's eyes found Sienna and his expression lit up with obvious hope. "Sienna, I've been trying desperately to reach you for weeks. Can we please talk privately?" Then he saw Jae-sung standing beside her, saw Sienna's hand in his, saw the ring glittering on her finger. "What the hell is this?" Marcus demanded, voice rising sharply. "What's going on?" "Marcus, meet my husband, James Hahn," Sienna said calmly, clearly. "Though I believe you two are actually related, aren't you?" "Related?" Marcus looked genuinely confused. "I don't have any." He looked at his father desperately. "Dad, who is this?" "He's my brother," Christopher bit out tersely. "Your uncle, technically." "My uncle." Marcus's face went through several distinct shades of red, processing. "You married my uncle? Are you completely insane?" "Careful," Jae-sung said, and his voice went cold, dangerous, protective. "That's my wife you're addressing so disrespectfully." "We were engaged." Marcus sputtered angrily. "We were supposed to, were we?" Sienna tilted her head innocently. "I seem to recall you trading me for a business investment and a more suitable wife, more appropriate. How's that working out for you, by the way?" She turned to Jasmine with false sweetness. "You look absolutely lovely tonight. Tell me, Jasmine, does Marcus's family genuinely approve of you, or are you also just another business transaction, another contract?" Jasmine's expression suggested she knew exactly what she was, exactly her role. "You did this purely for revenge," Marcus accused, pointing at her. "You married some old guy just to spite me, to hurt me." "I married a man who genuinely values me, who sees my worth," Sienna corrected firmly. "A man who, coincidentally, is far more successful, more intelligent, and considerably more attractive than you'll ever be, than you could hope to be. The revenge aspect is just a delightful bonus, an added benefit." "She's absolutely right about the attractive part," Jasmine murmured, eyeing Jae-sung with obvious interest. Marcus shot her a betrayed look, wounded. "This is completely inappropriate," Christopher interjected, trying to regain control. "James, you haven't been part of this family for 32 years. You can't just waltz back and..." "Can't just what exactly?" Jae-sung's smile was sharp, predatory. "Marry a brilliant woman and reintegrate into society? Watch me, Christopher." "Oh, and that donation you were planning to make tonight to secure the Vanderbilt development contract? I've already pledged triple your amount. The contract is mine now. Just like everything else you thought was secure, untouchable." Christopher's face turned purple with rage. "You have absolutely no right." "I have every right," Jae-sung interrupted coldly. "I'm a Han just like you, same blood. The difference is I built my empire honestly, legitimately." Well, he amended with dark humor, more honestly than you did, at least. We should leave, Marcus said tightly, grabbing Jasmine's arm roughly. Before this gets even more embarrassing. Embarrassing for whom exactly? Sienna asked sweetly, innocently. I'm having an absolutely wonderful time myself. Marcus's parting look was pure concentrated venom, hatred. But beneath it, underneath the anger, she saw exactly what she'd been hoping for, what she'd wanted to see. Regret. Deep, painful, consuming regret. After they left, after they disappeared, Jae-sung signaled for champagne, raising his glass. That went exceptionally well, better than I hoped, he observed with satisfaction. Sienna laughed, giddy with adrenaline and victory. Did you see his face? The expression. I was too busy watching you eviscerate him with perfect politeness, with surgical precision. It was absolutely beautiful to witness. I can't believe we just did that it actually happened. We did indeed. And now all of New York's elite knows without question that you're mine, that I'm back in the city, and that the Han family politics just became extremely interesting, very complicated. He raised his glass higher. To new beginnings. She clinked her glass against his. To revenge, sweet revenge. And to us, he added softly, meaningfully. To us, she agreed, and meant it completely. But if you think this story ends here, you're seriously wrong. Subscribe right now because part 2 is going to be absolutely wild. The Han family isn't going down without a serious fight, and James has some major secrets he hasn't told Sienna yet. Secrets that could change everything. Comment below. Do you think their marriage will become true love, or is James hiding something that could destroy them? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.